George never thought he'd feel worse after taking care of himself. At 66, he still kept active, still ate clean, and still had the same quiet ritual he'd followed for years. He'd touch himself, alone without guilt or secrecy. His wife's health had declined over the past few years, and intimacy had faded naturally. This was how he stayed grounded, how he kept a sense of manhood, how he released tension without asking anything of anyone. It had always been a comfort, until it wasn't. He started noticing the shift slowly. He'd finish and feel dizzy, sometimes anxious. His legs would ache. He started waking up exhausted, even on days he didn't do anything. His balance got worse. His skin looked duller in the mirror, but he still assumed it was just getting old. Until one night after another short, unsatisfying session, George sat in the dark and asked himself the question he'd been avoiding for months. Why do I feel worse every time I do this? The answer didn't come easily, so he made an appointment with his urologist. It was a short visit, routine mostly. But just as the doctor was about to leave the room, George asked the question quietly. Is it normal to feel drained afterward? The doctor turned back, raised an eyebrow. Tell me more. George explained it all, the fatigue, the fog, the strange feeling of weakness afterward. The doctor listened carefully, then sat down again. You're not alone, he said, but you are making a mistake that most older men make. It's not the act that's hurting you, it's how you're doing it. George blinked. I've been doing it the same way for decades. That's the problem, the doctor replied. Your body after 60 isn't the same. And if you don't adapt how you stimulate yourself, you'll quietly wear down the very systems that support circulation, testosterone balance, and neural clarity. That's when the doctor introduced a term George had never heard before, the delayed drain effect. It's when stimulation practices no longer match the hormonal and neurological rhythm of an aging body. The pleasure might still be there, but the cost afterward, fatigue, memory fog, tight chest, loss of drive, starts building up in the background like silent inflammation. George sat in the stunned silence, and the doctor said one final thing. There are 3 common mistakes men your age make, and one of them, if you keep doing it, can reduce your blood flow for up to 48 hours after. That's why you feel numb, why your legs are weak, why your mind feels foggy, but it's fixable. George nodded. He didn't need more guilt. He needed a better way. George wasn't embarrassed. Not anymore. He wanted answers. And his doctor didn't flinch. He leaned forward and spoke like it mattered. The first mistake, he said, is what we call excessive pressure stimulation. Most men over 60 do this without realizing it. George raised an eyebrow. Pressure? Yes, the doctor replied. They grip too hard, often because they're chasing the same intensity they had when they were younger. But now the nervous system is slower. Blood vessels are less elastic. The tissue is more fragile. George looked down at his hands. He knew exactly what the doctor meant. He had learned to finish fast. Years of stress, years of hiding it. That tight grip wasn't about pleasure. It was about control. But after 60, that habit can backfire. Excessive pressure reduces surface sensitivity over time. It compresses tiny nerve endings. It decreases vascular response. And it causes micro-trauma that accumulates, leading to delayed numbness, stiffness, or even subtle pain afterward. Worse, the body begins to depend on that pressure, which means natural arousal with a partner or during soft, connected touch stops working. George blinked. That's why I feel more numb afterward? Exactly, the doctor said. Your brain thinks that's the only way to get sensation, so it overcompensates. But afterward, it crashes. It's what neurologists now refer to as stimulation mismatch fatigue. The nervous system gets excited quickly, but the body can't keep up. So after climax, there's a collapse. Blood vessels constrict, muscles tighten, and oxygen flow dips, especially in men with already fragile circulation. That's why George had been feeling tired, why his legs felt heavy, why his skin sometimes felt cold even under the covers. So what do I do? He asked. The doctor smiled gently. You retrain your body. This was the first action step. Switch from pressure to rhythm. Slower, softer. Focused on breath, not force. Use sensation, not speed, to build arousal. It would feel strange at first, but within days, his body would begin to reset. The skin would feel more responsive. The blood vessels would stop shrinking, and the nervous system would stop crashing every time he climaxed. George nodded slowly. This wasn't about giving something up. It was about finally doing it in a way his body could handle, a way that didn't leave him weaker than before. The second mistake was one George never saw coming. After years of doing the same thing the same way, he'd gotten used to ignoring his body before and after climax. He assumed any soreness, fatigue, or fog was just age, but the doctor's next words stopped him cold. Mistake number 2, he said, is ignoring pelvic tension. George raised an eyebrow. You mean like down there, boys? Yes, and it's more serious than you think. After 60, most men carry unreleased tension in the pelvic floor, hips, and lower back. When they masturbate without addressing it, that tension compounds. George blinked. What does that cause? The doctor continued. It causes blood to pool. It limits oxygen flow. It reduces your ability to fully release. And worst of all, it trains your nervous system to associate climax with compression, not relaxation. George sat back. He thought of all the times he'd finished and felt clenched. All the times he had to take a deep breath afterward just to get grounded again. The way his lower back ached after, how his knees sometimes buzzed with fatigue. That's what we call post-release stiffness, the doctor explained. And it's one of the earliest signs that your nervous system is stuck in sympathetic mode, fight, flight, freeze, even during self-pleasure. When a man climaxes without proper release through his muscles, his blood vessels constrict afterward. His heart rate spikes, his oxygen dips. Instead of recovery, he gets a drop in vitality. Over time, this leads to what doctors now call the rebound constriction effect. You feel okay in the moment, but 20 minutes later, your legs feel weaker, your mind drifts, your breath shallows, and your motivation disappears. George asked, "So how do I fix that?" The answer surprised him. Stretch before you start, release afterward. Not yoga, not long workouts, just 2 things. Before, stand. Take 10 deep belly breaths. Roll your hips in slow circles. Bend forward with soft knees and breathe. After, sit quietly, rub your thighs, stretch your arms overhead, and don't rush to move. This wasn't about being flexible. It was about showing your nervous system that climax is safe, that it can lead to ease, not collapse. That pleasure doesn't have to come with a price. George took the note because now he understood he wasn't failing. His body had just been waiting for permission to let go. The doctor hesitated before sharing the third mistake, not because it was rare, but because it was so common, men didn't even see it as a mistake. Mistake number 3, he said quietly, is using climax to manage loneliness or anxiety without awareness. George frowned. You mean emotional release? Exactly, the doctor said. After 60, men often deal with quiet stress, grief, regret, isolation. And because we're taught not to talk about it, we use the body to numb it. George looked away because he knew. There were nights he didn't feel aroused. He just felt empty. And the act wasn't about pleasure. It was about interrupting the silence. But afterward, it made the silence louder. You're not wrong for touching yourself, the doctor said. But when we use climax as an emotional sedative, the nervous system learns to link arousal with anxiety. That creates a pattern called conflicted release. You feel tension going in, tension going out, and your brain never finds peace. The result? Shaky legs, brain fog, sleep disturbances, shame that lingers just under the skin, and perhaps worst of all, a fading ability to feel natural joy. That's why psychologists now talk about the numbness loop, where self-stimulation feels like control, but eventually blunts your ability to feel connected, present, or safe in your own skin. George sat in silence. He thought of how many men he knew who didn't talk about these things, who drank more, slept less, kept their worries locked behind polite smiles, and quietly, secretly, tried to release pressure through their bodies. But the body knows. It knows the difference between release and repression. So the doctor gave him one final strategy. Before you touch yourself, he said, sit for 1 minute. Place your hand on your chest. Ask, am I doing this to feel alive or to escape something I don't want to face? Either answer is okay, but your nervous system needs to hear you speak the truth. George nodded slowly. He wasn't broken. He was just out of rhythm. And now, for the first time in years, he had a way back into clarity. George didn't stop touching himself. He just changed how he did it. He started with the breath. 10 deep inhales each morning, hands resting where he could feel life rising. No pressure, just presence. He practiced the warm-up, rolled his hips, loosened his lower back, rubbed his thighs and sides, like someone waking up an old friend. Then, when he touched himself, he did it differently. Not for speed, not for tension, but for rhythm, for curiosity, for connection. He let sensation come and go without force. He paid attention to his heartbeat. He stopped gripping. He stopped chasing. He let his body guide, not perform. And afterward, he didn't rush away. He sat still, hands warm, chest steady. Sometimes he cried, not from shame, from relief. Because for the first time in decades, his body didn't feel like a tool. It felt like home. His sleep returned. His energy stayed. His mind cleared. His legs stopped aching in the mornings. He didn't feel hollow after. He felt held. Because he'd given himself something most men never learned to give. Permission to feel good without wrecking himself in the process. What George discovered is now being taught in longevity clinics around the world. It's called the Vital Sensory Protocol, a method of self-touch after 60 that restores the nervous system instead of draining it. It's based on 3 principles. Regulate first. Breathe before you begin. Stimulate gently. Use rhythm and curiosity, not pressure and performance. Release intentionally. Sit still. Let your body know you're safe now. And the result? Not just better pleasure, better health. Because when the nervous system feels safe, every part of the body heals better. Circulation improves, hormones stabilize, mental clarity returns, and intimacy, both with yourself and someone else, stops feeling like a demand and starts feeling like nourishment. So if you're over 60 and you've been wondering why pleasure leaves you feeling worse, it's not your age, it's your rhythm. And with just a few quiet changes, you can make your body trust you again.